All right, let's just jump right in. We all tend to assume that what we see, what we hear, what we feel, that's reality, right? A direct, unfiltered feed from the world out there. But what if it isn't? What if your entire experience of reality is more of a story your brain tells itself? A story that, it turns out, is surprisingly easy to edit. And that's really the big question we're tackling. We're going to look at two pretty fascinating and seemingly unrelated states of consciousness that are kind of like cheat codes for the mind. They show us just how flexible our perception of the world can actually be. So our two clues are hypnosis and psychedelics. On one side, you've got hypnosis, which works from the top down. A simple belief planted by a suggestion can literally change what you see or feel. Net on the other side, you have psychedelics. They work from the bottom up. A specific chemical change just completely disrupts your brain's normal way of doing things. You've got two totally different paths to the same, frankly, stunning destination, a rewritten reality. So let's start with clue number one, hypnosis. And look, we're not talking about the stage show stuff, clucking like a chicken. This is about the brain's incredible ability to let a top-down command, a simple suggestion, override the raw data coming in from your senses. And get this, it's not just someone playing along. Brain scans prove it. When a highly hypnotizable person is told a black and white image has color, the color processing parts of their brain actually light up. Their brain is literally seeing a color that isn't there, all because someone suggested it. So, how is that even possible? How can a few words hijack something as fundamental as our vision? Well, the answer is pretty wild, and it has to do with how our brain builds our reality every single second. Let me introduce you to the Bayesian brain. This is a huge idea in neuroscience. It basically says your brain isn't just a passive camera, just recording what's out there. No, it's a prediction machine. It's constantly guessing what it expects to see based on everything it's ever learned. Your perception is always a negotiation between those predictions and what your senses are actually telling you. And this is exactly how hypnosis pulls off its magic trick. See, in normal perception, there's a balance between prediction and reality. But under hypnosis, a suggestion, like you're seeing color, becomes this incredibly powerful high-priority prediction. The brain essentially decides, you know what? This suggestion is more reliable than the data coming from my eyes. It turns down the volume on the senses, and suddenly, the prediction becomes your reality. You actually see color. Okay, let's switch gears to our second clue. Because if hypnosis is about making one prediction super strong, psychedelics are about weakening all of our predictions, especially the biggest one of all, our sense of I. You know, Aldous Huxley said it beautifully way back in the 50s. He had this theory that the brain acts like a filter, or a reducing valve, to stop us from being totally overwhelmed by information. And he figured psychedelics just open that valve. And what's amazing is that modern neuroscience is showing he was incredibly close to the truth. To get how this works, you have to know about a key network in the brain, the default mode network, or DMN. You can just think of this as your brain's ego network. It's the part that's humming along when you're thinking about yourself, when your mind is wandering, or when you're worrying about the future. It's that inner monologue that gives you that stable sense of being you. And here's where it gets really interesting. Look what happens when psychedelics are introduced. Brain imaging shows this dramatic shift. Normally, that DMN is a tightly knit, orderly hub. But on a psychedelic, its internal chatter just plummets. It gets quiet, disorganized. And at the exact same time, communication across the entire brain just explodes. All these networks for vision and hearing and memory that usually stay in their own lanes suddenly start talking to each other directly. And here's the kicker. There's a direct link. As that DMN, the home of the ego, goes quiet, and the rest of the brain becomes this hyper-connected web, people report one of the most profound experiences you can have, ego dissolution. That feeling that the boundary between you and the rest of the universe has completely melted away. The change in the brain's hardware maps directly onto the experience. Okay, so we have our two clues. Hypnosis cranks up a top-down belief to rewrite reality. Psychedelics tear down the brain's whole filtering system, letting a new reality flood in. So how in the world does science tie these two incredible states together? Well, there are two main ways science is looking at this. The first is the classical view, the one with a lot of solid evidence. It goes back to that Bayesian brain idea. In this model, hypnosis just boosts the power of one prediction. Psychedelics do the opposite. They relax all our high-level predictions, letting more of the world rush in. But then, Then you have this other idea, way out on the edge, from quantum physics. It suggests that maybe consciousness itself has quantum properties, and these altered states are glimpses into a totally different, more fundamental reality. It is very speculative, but it just shows you how deep these questions really go. So you've really got these two major ways of thinking about it right now. On one side, you have the neuroscientists, meticulously mapping the brain's circuits, explaining all this through networks and predictions. It's grounded, it's measurable. And on the other side, you have some physicists and philosophers asking, are we missing something huge here? Does the weirdness of consciousness itself require a whole new kind of science? It's one of the most exciting debates happening anywhere. Look, this isn't just some fun philosophical thought experiment. Understanding how to make the brain's model of reality more flexible, well, it has some massive real-world implications, especially for mental health. And this is where the research is just exploding. Clinical trials at places like Johns Hopkins are showing incredible results. By temporarily disrupting or rewriting these rigid, negative loops of thinking that define things like depression, PTSD, and addiction, both psychedelic therapy and clinical hypnosis are having powerful, lasting effects where nothing else has worked. So the bottom line is this. A lot of mental health challenges can be seen as the brain just getting stuck. It's trapped in a rigid, unhealthy model of reality, making the same negative predictions over and over and over again. And what both of these tools seem to do, in their own unique ways, is hit a reset button. They introduce a powerful dose of flexibility, allowing new, healthier ways of thinking to finally take hold. Which leaves us with one final, kind of mind-bending thought. All this science suggests that your everyday reality is, in a very real sense, a controlled hallucination, guided by your brain's best guess. So the question these states force us to ask is, if that's true, who's in control of the hallucination? And maybe more importantly, can we learn to get better at conducting our own experience?